Wuthering Waves might actually be stepping into real competition territory. You see, for a while now, we've been comparing it to Hoyoverse games, whether that's Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail, but honestly, that comparison is starting to fall apart. With everything we've experienced so far, Wuthering Waves has moved beyond just giving us a story or new versions. It's been delivering full-on experiences, and it's hard to compare an experience to what Hoyoverse offers. So unless Hoyoverse makes some drastic changes to how they tell or deliver their stories, that head-to-head matchup isn't really fair anymore. But here's the thing, something just happened in the gacha space that makes me believe Wuthering Waves might be in a bit of trouble. Real competition might be on the horizon, and that's what we want to dive into in this video. So if you're into this kind of content, make sure to like the video and drop a comment letting me know whether you think Hoyoverse still has a chance against Wuthering Waves or if they're just going to settle for second place. And of course, subscribe in case you're interested on any of my future videos. Before I get into it, let's give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Top Up Life. Top Up Life helps you get the resources you need in your favorite gacha games and at a discount. Whether it's currency, characters, weapons, you name it, they've got you covered, all at lower prices than you would pay in-game. Whether it's a guaranteed Frelovo or a guaranteed Rochia, or maybe you're chasing resources for Augusta and whatever it is, Top Up Life makes it more affordable. And the best part is, if you use the code TIVE, that is TIVE, you get an extra 12% off on top of the already discounted rates. So big thanks to Top of Life for sponsoring this video, and let's get into it. See, a couple of days ago, Wuthering Waves dropped a short cinematic called To the Finale. And while it was brief, two things stood out to me, two very important things. First, from the stories we'll get with Augusta and to the arcs involving Galbarina and Chisa, everything about these characters screams momentum. The hype is only going to build. That trailer was more proof that each of them will only elevate the game even further. But the second thing I noticed, and this is the big one, Renacita is coming to an end. The insane journey we've had from Reguna through Septimont and everything in between is about to close this chapter. In just a few months, we'll leave Renacita entirely and head into a brand new region. And that's when the question hit me. Can Wuthering Waves give us something better than the Renacita experience? Because right now, the only real competition that Wuthering Waves has might be itself. The challenge isn't Genshin, Star Rail, or any other game, it's whether Wuthering Waves can outdo what it has already given us. Because the next region has some massive shoes to fill. You see, its job isn't just to keep the hype going, it has to amplify it. It has to give us something that hits even harder than what Renacita gave us. Because whether we want to admit it or not, Renacita has completely changed how we see Wuthering Waves. For many of us, it stopped feeling like just another gacha game and started feeling like something more. It's reshaped how we talk about it, how we rate it, and how we experience it. Even the community has shifted. Whole conversations across the gacha space has revolved around Renacita for weeks on end. That's how impactful it's been. So the big question is, what exactly did Renacita do? What made it so special? And more importantly, what will the next region have to improve on if it's going to top that experience? Let's start with the storytelling. See, I've said this before in another video, but when you really look at the best stories Wuthering Waves gives us, they're not necessarily deeper than other gacha game stories. Gacha games are known for having deep, complex narratives, but where they often fail is in execution. Because no matter how good a story is, if it's not executed well, the whole thing falls apart. And I think Wuthering Waves at this point has perfected execution. See, when we first entered Renacita in version 2.0, the storytelling wasn't much different from any other gacha game. Don't get me wrong, it was interesting. We roamed around Renacita with Zani, helping people along the way, but there wasn't really anything in that chapter that made it stand out from what I'd experienced elsewhere. So naturally, my expectations stayed pretty low. I figured future updates would follow this same pattern. But then, in version 2.2, something shifted. I started to notice something very different. And that is how cinematic and personal the entire story in version 2.2 felt. Because one of my most memorable moments didn't even come from a major boss fight, but from a random Echo encounter. See, as we journey with Cartathea, we encounter an Echo, and after defeating it, we learned that it used to be a god of Cartathea. It protected Cartathea, and there was a friendship between her and that Echo. And that moment wasn't really about the Echo itself. It was there to give us more backstory about Cartathea. And even though it didn't have a huge impact on the grand plot, it stuck with me because of how cinematically Wuthering Waves chose to tell it. And that same level of cinematic storytelling carried throughout the entire update. We got deeper insights into Fleur-de-Lis, into Cartathea's transformation from just a normal girl to the Blessed Maiden, the conversation with Fleur-de-Lis and the Thrunodian. And then there were the quieter moments like our talk with Imperator. And you see, on paper, all of these moments were not big, flashy set pieces, but the way they were presented made it impossible to not notice that something had changed. This was different from what we got in version 2.0. But I believe the biggest shift in Wuthering Waves storytelling storytelling happened in version 2.4 and 2.5. If 2.2 gave us a cinematic experience, these two versions cranked that up by 100. They were cinematic, more in your face, and they carried the feeling that we were witnessing a massive change unfold in real time. And it wasn't just in presentation, it was in how Wuthering Waves chose to tell its story. In these updates, the game did something that's practically taboo in gacha storytelling. It stopped holding our hands. Instead, it trusted us to connect the dots ourselves. If you played 2.4 when it dropped, you probably noticed that part 1 ended with more questions than answers. What was the connection between the two separate Septimons? How exactly did Cartathea and Lupa tie together? The mystery was intoxicating. It was fun piecing things together, watching theory videos and hearing other players' perspectives. And the best part, anticipating part 2, wondering how the game would answer all of those questions. And version 2.5 pushed gacha storytelling even further by doing something almost unheard of in the genre, putting its protagonist in a bad light. It made it clear that the rover's decision to wipe their memory had real consequences. This wasn't the usual hero shows up and solve everything arc. People suffered because of that choice, and the game didn't shy away from showing it. This sparked one of the most interesting debates in the community. Who was right, Frolova or the rover? There was so much nuance, so many perspectives to consider, and so many layers to unpack that discussing it became part of the fun. So yes, Venezita didn't just tell a story, it redefined what gacha storytelling could be. And the fact that a single region and not the entire game could shift the standard that much, I never thought that it was possible. And then when you start to look at world building, things get even more fascinating. See, when I first stepped into Reguna in version 2.0, I honestly thought that was it. I expected that the map would expand over time, but that the overall vibe we got in 2.0 would define the entire region. And I was prepared for that, because that is exactly what I'd always experienced with other gacha games. But I couldn't have been more wrong. Wuthering Waves completely shattered that expectation. Venezita feels like a massive region made up of smaller, widely distinct sub-regions, each with its own identity, atmosphere, and style. In 2.0, we were dropped into Reguna, which feels like Venice, Italy meets high fantasy. The city blends modern charm with fantastical elements in a way that is instantly memorable. You step into Reguna City and you see the Italian-inspired architecture, the clothing style of its people, and even certain major characters whose mannerisms match that cosmopolitan vibe. But the moment you leave the city, the fantasy side of Reguna unfolds. From the peaceful Whispering Haven, to the ethereal card-warped Nimbus Sanctum, to the dark hollow Death of President End, each location feels distinct. Yet they all weave together into this vibrant tapestry that is Reguna. But it's in version 2.2 that we start seeing a real shift in what Wuthering Waves offers in terms of world building and location variety. That's when we're dropped into the Avenolium. Sure, it's part of Venezita, but it's completely different from what we're used to. The Avenolium feels holy, tranquil, calm, and really beautiful. The architecture is stunning and the atmosphere is refreshing. And what's more is that the version we explored was a destroyed and abandoned Avenolium. But even in its ruined state, you can't help but stop and admire its beauty. And imagine just how breathtaking it must have been at its peak. And then we arrived in Septimons, which honestly feels like a soft reboot of everything. This was a whole nation in itself. And true to Wuthering Waves style, Septimons was absolutely stunning. If Reguna gave up Venice vibes, Septimons brought Rome to life. Everything felt battle-focused, from the way the city was built to how the people dressed. Playing through Septimons, exploring the story and environment, really made you realize just how wild it is that Reguna, Septimons, and everything we've experienced are all part of one region. It almost feels like we're cheating the system with how much variety Venezita packs in. And it's not just storytelling and world building, it extends to character development and animation too. Because right now, I think we can all agree that one of the toughest spots to be in the gacha space is a free-to-play Wuthering Waves player, because usually, free-to-play means that you have to skip some characters, save up, and pick the ones that you really want. But what if every character released is someone you want? From Zani, a fan favorite, to Cartathea, where the playable version has actually become more exciting than even her boss fight version, which is pretty rare in gacha games. Then there's Frolova, who nobody really wanted at first, but after playing her story, she flipped the entire community's opinion, and became one of the most loved characters in the entire game. And coming up, Augusta and Yuno, who literally make the sun and moon appear in the sky when they use their skills. Every character in Wuthering Waves isn't just worth pulling for, they're worth playing. Each one brings something unique, both in story and gameplay. So with Venezita coming to an end, it's only natural to feel a little sad. After all, Venezita gave us so much. The story of the Blessed Maiden, the Order, the Dark Tide, Imperator, the Threnodian, so many incredible moments. Knowing it's all wrapping up soon makes it easy to feel uneasy. But I also think it's completely fair to feel hyped. Version 2.6 brings Augusta's story, new locations like the Paradise and the Hunting Grounds, and so much more that's already got me excited. That said, it's also normal to feel a bit concerned about the new region. How will this game top what it's already given us? Because what we've seen so far is absolutely amazing. So the new region has some huge shoes to fill. It needs to tell a story that feels fresh and different from Venezita, but it also can't undermine everything we've lost so far. And right now, with the gacha games we have currently, I really believe Wuthering Waves' biggest competition is itself. And Venezita is by far the best challenge that the game game has to face going forward. But what do you think? Will the new region outshine Renacita, or has Wuthering Waves already hit its peak with it? Let me know in the comments, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.